If you type "living in Singapore as a foreigner" on YouTube, the search results look like a contradiction. It's too stressful. It's too expensive. Too strict, too fast, too efficient. Yet right below those videos are millions of foreigners who say the same thing. Singapore is the one place I never want to leave. Why? Because Singapore does something almost no country on earth has figured out. It makes life challenging, but incredibly rewarding. Singapore isn't the easiest place for outsiders. If you're a foreigner here, you feel the pressure instantly. The pace, the expectations, the competition, it hits you on day one. You're dropped into a system where everyone moves fast, thinks ahead and expects you to do the same. A system built for precision. No chaos, no shortcuts, no later. Most foreigners describe their first months the same way. Overwhelmed, unsure, constantly correcting themselves, wondering if they'll ever keep up. But here's the twist. Once you adjust, the very things that overwhelmed you become the reasons you stay. Singapore gives you something rare. Predictability in a chaotic world, safety you can feel in your bones, a society that rewards discipline over luck, a sense of stability that almost feels unreal. For many foreigners, Singapore becomes the first place where life finally works. And that's the paradox of this country. Foreigners struggle here, but they don't want to leave. Because once you experience a system built this well, going back feels like stepping into the past. The shock of Singapore's pace. Every foreigner who moves to Singapore tells a version of the same story. Not about culture shock, not about food, not even about the cost of living. The real shock hits much earlier, the pace. Because Singapore doesn't warm you up. It doesn't give you a settling in period. It throws you directly into a system that moves with the speed and precision of a country 4 times its size. Your first morning commute feels like an initiation. The MRT pulls in exactly when the screen says it will, down to the minute. Sometimes down to the second. Doors open. People exit in perfect formation. People enter just as quickly. No pushing, no yelling, yet everything moves fast. And in the middle of all that choreography, you're the one person a little out of rhythm. You stand on the wrong side of the escalator and instantly feel eyes behind you. You hesitate at a hawker, stall trying to figure out what Lao Ban means, and the auntie has already shouted next. You're trying to understand the menu, but the queue has already moved 3 places forward. It's not hostility, it's not rudeness, it's momentum. Singapore is built on the idea that life should not waste time. Not yours, not anyone else's. And people grow up learning to match the speed of that system. For foreigners, it creates a strange internal pressure, a quiet voice saying, "Why am I slower? Will I ever catch up? Am I the one disrupting the flow?" But here's where the story takes a turn. That pressure doesn't break you, it sharpens you. Within weeks, you start walking faster without thinking about it. You learn to tap your card, order food, move in and out of trains with a kind of automatic precision you didn't even know you had. Your planning gets tighter. Your decisions become quicker. You operate with less friction. And then something clicks. The pace that once intimidated you is now the pace you rely on. Because once you experience a city where systems actually work, where things run on predictability and trust, you stop longing for slow. You start valuing efficiency. Singapore's speed isn't chaos, it's clarity. It's the feeling of living in a place where your time has value, where the city respects your schedule, your safety, your routine. The struggle is real at the start. No foreigner escapes it. But the same pace that overwhelms you in week 1 becomes the reason you stay in year 5. Because once you sync with Singapore's rhythm, you feel something you can't easily unfeel. Life doesn't have to be complicated. A country can actually run well. And you can become better simply by being here. Section 2, the hidden rules no one tells you.
The first thing foreigners learn in Singapore isn't the food, the MRT map, or the Singlish vocabulary. It's the rules, not the written ones, the unspoken ones. The silent operating manual that every Singaporean somehow knows by heart. And here's the funny thing. No one explains them to you. There's no handbook, no welcome briefing. You just start living your life and slowly realize you've been breaking invisible rules without knowing it. You learn the first rule on public transport. You don't stand near the train doors if you're not getting off at the next stop. Singaporeans don't push. They don't shout. They simply expect you to know the choreography. And when you don't, it shows. Then comes the hawker center rule. Decide fast. There's no browsing the menu for 5 minutes. People behind you already know what they want. Stalls run on speed. Aunties don't have time for your indecision. You hesitate. They skip you. No hard feelings, just efficiency. Next is the don't block the path rule. Singapore is a walking city. Sidewalks, escalators, malls, every space has a flow. If you stop suddenly or wander slowly in the center of a walkway, you instantly feel the shift in energy around you. It's not anger. It's that you've interrupted a rhythm that everyone else is trying to maintain. But the most important hidden rule: respect the shared space. In many countries, public areas are treated like, public areas. In Singapore, they're treated like someone's home, clean, orderly, respected. You don't litter because someone else will have to clean it. You don't blast music on the MRT because everyone else is trying to get through their day. You don't cut queues. You don't argue with staff. Everything is built on a simple assumption: we share this place. Let's not make life harder for each other. And when foreigners first encounter these rules, they often interpret them as strictness. But that's the misunderstanding. Singapore isn't strict, it's structured. The rules aren't there to control you. They're there to protect the quality of life that everyone benefits from. And the moment you start following these unspoken norms, something clicks. The country feels smoother. The people seem kinder. The system becomes easier. Because the hidden rules aren't really restrictions, they're agreements. A collective decision that if everyone contributes a little discipline, everyone gets a better experience. Foreigners don't realize it at first, but this is the moment they start becoming Singaporean in the way they think. Not by changing who they are, but by understanding how the city works under the surface. And once you understand that, Singapore stops feeling strict. It starts feeling safe, predictable, respectful, a place where people actually trust each other to behave. And that's when you realize you're not just living in Singapore anymore, you're finally part of it.
Section 3, the cost of living paradox. Ask any foreigner what scares them most about Singapore, and you'll hear the same answer. It's expensive. And yes, on paper, Singapore looks like one of the priciest cities in the world. Rent is high. Cars are a luxury. Eating out every day adds up. But here's the twist almost nobody outside the country understands. Foreigners don't stay in Singapore because it's cheap. They stay because the value is unmatched. The first shock, of course, is rent. You look at apartment listings and wonder if there's a missing zero or an extra one. But then you visit an HDB estate at midnight. Kids playing downstairs, elderly walking alone, no catcalls, no chaos. And you realize you're not paying for square meters. You're paying for safety, predictability, and peace of mind. The next shock is food. One moment you're spending $18 on a cafe brunch. The next you find yourself eating incredible chicken rice for $4 and wondering how this dual reality exists in the same country. That's the paradox. Singapore isn't universally expensive. It's selectively expensive. You can blow money fast, or you can live comfortably with discipline. But here's where the paradox becomes powerful. Singapore makes it almost impossible to fall through the cracks financially. Public transport is cheap and world-class. Hawkers keep food affordable. Healthcare is subsidized and efficient. The core essentials of life, the things that actually determine your stability, are protected. Then you start comparing. You remember what life was like back home. The hidden taxes, the unpredictable bills, the unreliable public services, the constant mental load of what if things go wrong. Suddenly, Singapore's cost starts to feel less like a burden and more like a trade-off. A higher price up front for fewer problems later. Foreigners come expecting to feel poor, but they end up feeling something else, in control. In Singapore, you don't fear the unexpected. You don't fear walking home at night. You don't fear medical bankruptcy, corrupt landlords, or broken systems that leave you on your own. And that's the moment the paradox hits. You're paying more money but carrying less stress. You spend more, but you lose fewer hours to chaos. You feel smaller financially, but stronger mentally. This is why foreigners complain about the cost of Singapore. But almost none of them leave because of it. Because deep down, they know something people outside Singapore rarely understand. A city that protects your time, your safety, and your sanity. is worth more than a city that simply costs less. In most countries, you save money but lose peace. In Singapore, you spend money but gain a life that actually functions. And once you taste that kind of stability, the kind you don't have to fight for every day, it becomes almost impossible to return to a place where everything feels uncertain. That's the cost of living paradox. It's not cheap to live in Singapore. Section 5. Why people still stay. Foreigners love to complain about Singapore. The heat, the rules, the prices, the fines that feel like they're watching you. But ask those same people if they're leaving and they'll say, not anytime soon. Because behind the noise, almost every foreigner discovers the same truth. Singapore gives you a life with fewer uncertainties. It's not perfect, but it has something rare. Predictability. Jobs are stable. Streets are safe. The government is competent. Policies don't swing wildly because of emotion or political drama. For people from volatile economies or chaotic cities, this feels like stepping into an alternate universe. You don't waste mental energy wondering if the electricity will cut, if the bus will show up, or if it's safe to walk home. Singapore removes those invisible fears. And when a city removes fear, something powerful happens. You start planning farther ahead. You grow faster. You build instead of surviving. Foreigners stay because Singapore gives them mental room space to breathe and think. They might not say it out loud, but deep down they know. This is one of the few places on Earth where your life isn't constantly interrupted by dysfunction. And once you taste that kind of stability, it's hard to walk away. Section 6. The emotional side of leaving. Leaving Singapore is strangely emotional even for people who never felt like they fully belonged. When foreigners pack their bags, it hits them. They're not just leaving a place. They're leaving a feeling. The feeling of walking alone at 2 a.m. without fear. The feeling of losing your wallet and getting it back. The feeling of knowing tomorrow will look like today, and that's a good thing. These emotions don't appear on tourism brochures, but they live inside people. It's why many take one last slow walk through Marina Bay, trying to hold on to the calm. And when they return home, the contrast is sharp. Noise is louder. Systems are slower. Public spaces feel rougher. Every errand takes energy. Chaos steals minutes, then hours. Then they realize they didn't love Singapore because it was exciting. They loved it because it was gentle. Place that holds you, not drains you. That's the emotional weight of leaving Singapore. Many move away but never truly leave it behind. Conclusion: Singapore isn't the easiest place for foreigners. It demands discipline. It moves fast. It expects you to keep up. But the same things that challenge you are the things that protect you. Safety, order, efficiency, reliability systems that work quietly in the background. Foreigners struggle at first because the standards are high. But they stay because those standards upgrade their lives. Singapore gives you something rare today. A life that feels stable. A future that feels buildable. A society that feels trustworthy. Once you experience that being supported instead of overwhelmed, you stop asking why foreigners stay. You start asking why more people don't.